Antoine Dupont, is he the world's best player?
Yes.
Is he the greatest of all time?
Oh, I definitely think he's the greatest at the moment. He's shown his class across multiple disciplines, which you've got to include the Rugby Sevens as rugby. So I think he's ahead of the guys that are only in the 15s game. So he's doing pretty well, isn't he?
All right, if that sounds a little bit different to your usual co-host, Matt Tamua, it is, because Ryan Smith, the Queensland second rower, joins me, Christy Doran, on the Raw Rugby podcast. A lot coming up. We're going to talk about Queensland, their amazing unprecedented trip to Tonga just recently over the weekend, where both the men and the women went up to Tonga to play. So much to talk about with the Olympics, the Aussie men so close yet so far. Unfortunately, going down in that bronze medal match to South Africa. But Antoine Dupont, he's the man of the moment, having guided and led France to a historic gold medal just months after switching to the Sevens. Also, the women, they've started off in day one in flying colours with the Aussie women, beating South Africa and Great Britain. We're going to also catch up with Brandon Paenga-Amosa, who's just returned recently from Montpellier in France, just on the eve of the Rugby Championship squad being named. We'll talk about his return, but also Ryan Smith, around how close he was and came to being selected for those matches against Wales and Georgia. So a lot to look forward to on this, the Raw Rugby podcast. Hey, Ryan, thanks for coming on, because Matt Tamua is busy planning things with his coffee and down in Canberra, the nation's capital. Apparently a lot's going on down there at the moment, but awesome to have you join last minute. You've just come back from Tonga. How are you?
Mate, I'm great. I'm really excited to be on today, and caught me I've had a really busy day too, mate. I had a massage for an hour and a half today, and I had a bit of lunch. So, yeah, you've caught me at a pretty tough time too.
So is that just the life of a rugby player? When you come back, you've just got back from overseas and then you just get to down tools for a day?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it's not usually like that. We've usually got a fair bit of review and things getting ready for the next game, but we're at a bit of an odd time in our season. Obviously, Super Rugby's been finished for a few weeks now even. And, as we talked about a little bit earlier, 2 international games in 2 weeks for a Queensland side. So it's pretty different times from usual. So I just thought I'd treat myself to a little massage after a few tough weeks, mate.
Oh, well, it must be nice for some. And shout out to the Queensland medical team. Hey, so 41-14, you went to, off the back of that heartbreaking loss to Wales, a point going down, but a really good showing, 23,000 at Suncorp. Last weekend, you go to Tonga with the women's side as well. Talk to us a little bit about that experience, coming up against Tonga, another opportunity to take on an international side. It's very cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think it was a good opportunity for us to kind of right some wrongs throughout the season. We had a few games where we didn't travel all that well. So I think Les and the rest of the coaching staff took it as an opportunity for us to kind of get on top of a few of our routines and how we go about our travel days and our routines post-travel. So it was actually really cool to be able to get straight into a good headset, and it definitely wasn't a holiday trip or anything like that. We were pretty keen to get the win, especially after, as you say, a pretty disappointing loss the week before to a game that we really did want to win. So it was a cool trip. Obviously, no silverware on the line, anything like that, but an opportunity to get to travel. We had a massive group. There was 75, 80 of us across the Reds, men's and women's, and a few staff going over to run some clinics at some schools over there. So yeah, a really big travel group, and it was a great experience.
I think I saw George Smith in a couple of those photos. Did you get the chance to say good day to the great George Smith?
I saw him sitting around the pool. He was sitting with a few people, so I just left him, did a bit of a wide berth, but I gave him the nod.
Yeah, just that subtle, sign of respect. It was wet there as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really good. As we say, we wanted to prepare really well for it, and part of that was we kind of knew there was a chance that it might start raining, and right on cue, the ladies' game finished, and as we walked out for our warm-up, it started coming in sideways, and it was genuinely monsoonal rain for the warm-up, and we got into the huddle and could barely hear over the sound of the crowd and the rain coming in. And Jock Campbell, as captain, looked around the group and said, "This is what we prepared for." We knew it was going to be here, and just to enjoy it. And it was a pretty enjoyable game in the wet.
Yeah, it's a heck of an experience to get across to Tonga, and it's a great initiative from Queensland, really leading the way when they've got a trip to Europe later on in the year, coming up against Bristol and Ulster. It's great preparation ahead of next year's 2025 Super Rugby season, which is obviously going to be action-packed with a British and Irish Lions to midway through that point. What about James O'Connor? How's he going? Because we know that he kind of didn't return in the second half. There was a bit of talk around a concussion there. Were there any other injuries, or did the guys come away pretty well?
Yeah, I think for the most part, everyone was pretty good. I think there was definitely some sore bodies. Some of those Tongan boys were definitely looking for scalps and collected a few, one of them being James. So I think he seemed in pretty good spirits afterwards. So I think he'll turn that one around pretty well. But it was definitely good fun and physical game.
I thought, we saw a couple of shots with him smiling with a bit of dinner, I suspect, a big pig, was it? That's usually kind of Taniela Tupou's sort of areas.
Yeah, I think it might have been someone from Taniela's family that actually came along and dropped it off. Obviously, they've been associated with the Reds for a long time. So, yeah, it was nice to have that. By the time we sort of got to it, it was afternoon before a big travel day, and there was some nice cut up pork ready to go on some rolls. So it was very welcome the day after a game.
How good's that? Speaking of Taniela, your club Brothers, he's just ran out for, what was it, about 40 minutes for Brothers on the weekend. That's pretty crazy, really, but it's awesome.
Yeah, mate, I know Taniela always loves to get back down there. He absolutely loves Brothers, and it was sort of where he kind of got his first shot coming across from NZ and playing that 2016 grand final for Brothers. And yeah, I don't know how they find socks big enough. They're always down around his ankles. But yeah, he looked like he was having a ball out there back in the butcher's stripes.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's actually probably not a bad time to give your podcast a plug there, given you're talking about the Socks Up. Socks Up is your podcast. I think you're having a bit of time off, given it's outside the Super Rugby season, but definitely listen to that, I'm sure. Is that going to continue next year?
Yeah, definitely. We record one for every home game of the Super. So
right. Well, it's good that sign off from Les Kiss, because you've always got to get it, running it past Les.
Definitely keep the boss man happy. But yeah, we actually got him on the latest episode, so it was a big win to get him on board, and yeah, it was a cracker episode.
Right, that's awesome. Taniela Tupou, yeah, making a rare appearance for Brothers. I think that's great for Aussie rugby, because I know that Phil Waugh, one of the things he's spoken about over the last 12 months since coming into the chief executiveship of Rugby Australia has been the need to bring the professional leg of the game and the amateur leg and bring them closer together, because he's felt like over the years become too separated. So to have someone like Taniela Tupou, $1 million man, line up in club rugby a few weeks out from a test match, I think that's just awesome. When are we going to see you on the field for Brothers?
Yeah, I think I'll have to suss it out tomorrow when I get to training, but I dare say I'll be there this weekend. We've got the Northside Derby, so should be another one where boys are looking to put a hit on us, and it's always good fun getting down to Brothers. I played a game earlier in the year against UQ, and we were down 26-0 at half time, and it ended up 26-all at full time. So it was one of those ones you wish to forget. But yeah, mate, we all love getting back down and playing for Brothers, and I Wilso played that game with me, and I think there might be some boys from the west side coming back to get a bit of time as well. So that should be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think it's so important for Aussie rugby going forward to ensure that continues to happen. Tell us a little bit about your experiences earlier this month, late last month, where initially in and around that Wallaby squad, but clearly you didn't play a part. What was that like? Just the experience of getting some time with the Wallabies there, and then working underneath, obviously, the Wallabies coaching group led by Joe Schmidt.
Yeah, mate, it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. There's been a few times when the Wallabies team and squad's been announced, and I've been hopeful to see my name there and haven't. So to see my name inside the 38 was really cool, and I got a lot of messages from a lot of friends and family, and it was really exciting. And yeah, I went into the Brizzy camp and was putting everything into it, and it was really great fun. And as you say, to be under some new coaches is always exciting. You know, everyone's more or less starting at a clean slate with the coaching staff, so I was really excited, and I was picking the brains off of absolutely everyone, and really enjoying my time. And then, yeah, just I think purely size wise, I had to cut the squad to 34, and I was one of those 4 that didn't make it, unfortunately. But yeah, I've sort of kept in touch a little bit with a few of the coaches, and I've kept on watching, you know, line out sessions and things online, trying to stay up to date, which is a little bit hard sometimes when it's progressing so quickly and you're not actually there for meetings. So trying to kind of decipher some stuff across a video and things like that's pretty tough. But yeah, I absolutely love my time in the camp, and obviously very hopeful to put my hand up for the next squad that gets announced coming up, I reckon, pretty shortly.
Yeah, so the Wallabies Rugby Championship squad announced probably Thursday, at the very latest Friday. I think Rugby Australia just keen to give a little bit of separation, some clean air for the Sevens. Clearly, the Aussie women are going to be playing a quarterfinal on Monday night, Australian Eastern Standard Time, early hours of Tuesday morning, and then fingers crossed a gold medal match in the early hours of Wednesday morning. So I think that's a really good, smart decision there by RA there. Can you just bring us into, did you get any feedback around why you might have missed out, or you're talking about the video analysis sessions there. Is that part of the homework to kind of continue that, or is that off your own bat?
I think I did get some feedback earlier. We sort of had a touch-in camp the week before the Brizzy camp, and I met with 2 of the coaches and went through some clips throughout the whole Super Year, which was really cool, and cool to see exactly what their selection criteria went off of. And some of it was just a little bit differing from what we expected at the Reds. So yeah, it was cool to try and adapt to that within the week. Some of the stuff was just across defensive structure and fitting in within the team there. I think they preferred the chop tackler, the inside tackler, more of a chop focus where the outside guy can sort of put a hit on and then have a second action. A little bit different from how he defended the Reds, but so I think that was definitely part of this decision for me not being in the squad. And yeah, it wasn't explicitly said for me to keep watching the lineouts, but I think it definitely helps to be up to date. And you never know, you might be an injury or anything and thrown in the deep end. It definitely helps to have been continually watching it rather than trying to pick it up on the fly. Getting called in, it kind of takes a little bit of pressure off yourself, I think.
What's it like emotionally and just from a mental perspective? Just to kind of imagine you're so close and you can kind of touch it and you see all your mates, and it's got great. Like Harry Wilson's been out of the wilderness for the best part of 2 years, and then he gets an opportunity, and it was great to see him take it with both hands against Georgia and Sydney earlier this month. But I imagine every kid who plays rugby wants to grow up and play either for the Wallabies or the Wallaroos, and it must be agonising not quite being there just yet.
Yeah, definitely. It was really tough. I went from sort of the highest high of on the Saturday and Sunday going into camp to then all of a sudden on the Thursday it was one of the lowest lows. But I've sort of across my career I've always just looked to kind of chip off that next step and that next rung of the ladder, so to speak. And as I said, I'd never been called into a squad before, so that's that next rung for me. And hopefully, I'll go back and do some work and then, manage next time to get some minutes off the bench and try and just keep chipping it away like that. So, yeah, mate, it was really disappointing, but, I'm never one to just give up and throw the cots out of the toy. So, the very next week I played 80 minutes for Brothers and then another 80 against Wales and then a third 80 against Tonga. So even since then, I've played 3 full games and they were all pretty physical. And I think I learnt a lot even from those 3 games.
And individually, what do you take away from those games against Wales and Tonga? Like it definitely shows that the talent on display in Queensland really, you're not just seeing it in Super Rugby, but you can see that players are capable of making that next step. And guys like Sarah, who's been knocking on the door for a little while too. We know Tim Ryan's had some explosive moments. James O'Connor had a great few touches against Wales too. So is that another thing that makes playing international footy so exciting? And Who did you get to shake hands with at the end of that game in Brisbane against Wales and have a yarn to?
Yeah, I think it is really important that we, it's great initiative from the Reds to put these games on because, as you say, I think playing against the toughest competition possible, that's always the best way to better yourself. And we definitely found that both games were really physical. And I think the accuracy is just so important. If you miss your clean out at that level, the guys are so good on ball that it's just a turnover. Even in the Tongan games, you just have to be so connected in attack because if you give them half a sniff at the ball, they're all really good on ballers and are going to turn it around. Yeah, it was cool. We were lucky enough to I got to chat to a few of the guys. I went to the kind of opening ceremony in a way, not quite that big, just at QT there, and got to meet a few of the players, and they were pretty excited that they were going to get to play at Suncorp. I think they were pretty surprised that we were going to have 23,000 when the week before at Amy Park wasn't quite so busy. So I think they were shocked that the Queensland side was going to get such good support behind it, and we really felt that support when we went out there.
All right, changing topic slightly, let's go to Paris and let's talk some Rugby Sevens. Seriously, Antoine Dupont, just unbelievable, 28-7. France snapped Fiji's stranglehold over the gold medal there, having won both in Rio and in Tokyo, a silver this time. But it really did take an expired Antoine Dupont to turn the game in the second half. Just unbelievable as a player, as someone who's probably not getting into too many rucks to play halfback too often, but you must be like, he is damn good, isn't he?
Yeah, I was blown away. I sort of watched the game on my own, and then my partner came home and I sat down and showed her the game, and she was in awe and had some friends come over for dinner that night and watched it the third time and was saying, look at this. And yeah, mate, pretty incredible. First touch of the ball, 70, 80 meter breakaway to set up a try. And it seemed like he really brought that intensity to the game. And it was already a flying game as well. So to be able to step it up once again, especially against that quality Fijian team who, after watching the Aussie Fiji game a couple of hours earlier, I thought that the Fijians were definitely going to run away with it.
Yeah, well, they certainly handled the pressure there, did the French. 2 tries that he scores, the last 2 tries, and setting up a third as well in that incredible second half where there was a fair bit of rain at the Stade de France and 70,000 there, and it's just such an amphitheatre. It would have been absolutely rocking, and the celebrations since have been wild, and you're seeing the crowd surfing that Dupont's been doing with fans, and it's awesome to see. Like, I saw his heartbreak and heartache. It was almost 9 months ago when France got knocked out in the quarterfinals. So I felt like it was their moment in the sun. It's great story today on the Raw by Harry Jones, who asked the question: Is Dupont the GOAT? And I agree with Harry. I think it's premature to say that, but he is just unbelievable. And he's, for me, the most enjoyable player to watch in world rugby at the moment because what he can do, kick on both feet, so strong, so good over the ball, obviously a good passing game, but I think he just plays with that amount of time that people like Roger Federer or Messi, they always seem to have time up their sleeves, and he's certainly one of them. We asked you, we already know that you don't think he's the GOAT at the moment, which is fair, but what's it like playing with halfbacks that can just turn the game? And you've got a pretty good one with Tate McDermott.
Yeah, well, all of our halfbacks at the Reds, Kalani Thomas and Louis Wershon as well, are all guys that can kind of pull something out of nothing in a way. But yeah, Tate's amazing, and sometimes you've actually got to be pretty careful because you might be looking down to catch your breath for a second, and he's 60 meters up the field, and you've got to get on your bike. So yeah, it's incredible, and I think he does some great work both sides of the ball. We saw some defensive efforts that he had across the last year or two as well, and he's just incredibly strong. And I wonder what do you think about the fact that he has plenty of time in 15s, but I wonder if do you reckon he has even more in 7s, or is it his heart pumping too much for it to affect him?
I just love what the coach did, the French coach, bringing him on. Like it was a tactical masterclass, I thought, because we saw him throughout the tournament that he'd be used as a starter at times, but predominantly inject and lift the intensity off the bench. And I just saw that was so clever because when everyone else is starting to puff, you bring on someone like Dupont, and he changes the game, and we saw that, and it was pretty breathtaking to watch. You got a feel for the Aussies. They went down, of course, to Fiji, 31-7 in that semi-final. They just unfortunately couldn't get the kick restart, and that's something so well about. You're having to tidy up that area. You probably had your struggles against the Chiefs, right, in Hamilton, and it can swing a game. One ball that's not quite taken properly, and we saw the Aussies really stuff it up there, and there was probably 2 or 3 mistakes.
Yeah, I think it's tough, especially in sevens. That you've only got one lifter, and it's such a tough skill. I know we work on it daily, and it's still something that I really struggle with even to this day. And I'm 3 full seasons in, and I know Brad Thorne and I've had conversations, and he said that was the hardest skill for him to work out, and still deep into his career where he was having troubles with it. And he's an All Black great, so. When you've got 6'6", 6'7" Fijians charging at you to slap it back, it's all that much more difficult again. But yeah, I think that the Aussie Sevens boys did a fantastic job and can definitely hold their head high. I think it's the best the performance we've ever had in an Olympics. So I know that won't mean much to them. They'll be bitterly disappointed.
Yeah, I know. And I'd text John Manenti actually and after their quarterfinal win, which was obviously an amazing effort, and he said, "Look, I'm proud of what we've done, but for the program and the sake of the program and more investment, and he said we need to come home with a medal." So the fact that they go down in heartbreaking circumstances, 26-19. A last play, last roll of the dice, South Africa score against a 6-man Aussie side. And I've got a feel for Nick Maloof and the Aussies. I think they were completely robbed there with a refereeing decision that goes against you in sevens, because calls are made on the run. And generally speaking, in sevens, it's much quicker, the pace, and you don't always look at things like you might in 15s. But there's no way. I think it was Nathan Lawson that was deemed to knock the ball on despite making a massive hit. And there was just it was clear as day that it wasn't a knock on. And then next moment, Nick Maloof gets sent off for a high shot, which I thought at most was a yellow. But in sevens, they always police it hard at high contact.
I think the whole first half they had a string of penalties and a knock on that had maybe a bit longer advantage than usually would have gone in the sevens game. And you could see some frustrations creeping in through some massive defensive efforts, and obviously turned to attack. They managed to be up at half time, which I think, they started to get some real momentum. And then, yeah, as you say, that decision that went against for that knock on, I think must have just completely flustered them. And Maloof being he's a heroic captain and has been for a long time, a really great player for them, tried to turn it around and inspire his players through a big hit, which, maybe just got wrong and just hit above the ball. And it's unfortunately cost them. But yeah, there's some really cool stuff to come out of it. Corey Toole's kick over the top was fantastic, little try there, and shows you that pace is pretty important, which maybe why my career hasn't quite gone to the heights. I don't know if I've got the speed there, but yeah, I think they did a great job to bring it back. And yeah, as you say, tough at 7 men on the field, let alone 6.
Yeah, well, mate, like the injection of Corey Toole there was perfect. It was timely. There was 2 tries in a minute for the Aussies to come back into it. Mark Nawaqanitawasi had his moments. I think in hindsight probably should have been used a little bit more, but his effort against Argentina, where he sucked in a few defenders, managed to get the ball away and offload, that was so vital to finish, to top the pool, to get through on their way to the semi-finals. The women, they're still in it though. They're still very much a chance for medal. They clearly were underwhelming in Tokyo, but they just look so primed for this tournament. A devastating injury to Caitlin Shave late in the first match against South Africa, off the back of a 34-5 win over South Africa into a 36-5 victory over Great Britain. But the Aussies, they look amazing at the moment, don't they?
Yeah, they're amazing in the middle, and yeah, they really cut you up if they can get that ball out wide. I know the girls are working really hard in the middle, and I saw some defensive efforts that are really aiding their attack. I know Isabella Nasser is doing some great defensive stuff in the middle, which is then, a few phases later, it's turning to points at the other end. And Maddie Levi's incredible 3 tries in the first half of that first one. And yeah, mate, she's absolutely on fire, isn't she?
You're probably obviously Isabella, who's the sister of Josh there, that made his Wallabies debut just the other day as well. Do you ever get to see Bella? Like, I know that the Aussie side for the moment is based in Sydney. It's likely to move up to Ballymore at some point, but it's a pretty cool family story, those two.
Yeah, it's awesome, and obviously the father was Brendo was a Wallaby as well, so some good pedigree across the family, and yeah, they're absolutely great family and great people. And yeah, and Bella, I've met her a few times. She's a bit of a legend, and Nas, of course, one of my great mates, and really proud that he could pull on the green and gold the other week.
Has he been? I know that in terms of sitting down at the dinner table, I imagine that's not. There's a bit of parody now. Like, he doesn't have his old man doesn't have it over him anymore. But it's just, has there been any kind of sledging or a bit of fun? He's such a nice bloke, Josh.
Yeah, nah, I've just been we always send each other some funny Instagram reels, so that's the peak of our communications. But I'm pretty keen to see him this week.
Well, hopefully Isabella comes back with the gold medal. It looks like they'll come up against France. If things go to plan, Australia would take on France likely in a semi-final, and then possibly we talk about the race of the century with Ledeckis and with the Olympics going on at the moment with Ari Titmus, and this would be a bit of a match of the campaign, I reckon. These two sides, Australia and New Zealand, with so much history. Clearly, the Aussies winning in Rio, and ever since then, that rivalry has just gone up even more. Georgia Miller, she's the one for me that you've got to watch. I think she's just incredible. She's another one that plays with so much time, but somehow manages to always break free. But Michaela Blyde, we know the pace there. Sarah Hirony's back. We saw her make her return off the back of an ACL injury. So there's going to be threats for the Kiwis if they get there. The French have got a lot of threats. So you can't put the cart before the horse there. But fingers crossed the Aussies can make it through to the final. But yeah, it's shaping up to be a cracker. Who's your tip? Are the Aussies going to get home?
Yeah, you got to back the Aussie girls. I think if they can just keep a level head, I think they've had some experience with some wins across the circuit the last couple of years that they can draw back on. And, it's tough to see some injuries as we spoke on earlier, but I think that only rallies the girls and back them to get the job done.
Yeah, I certainly would as well. We saw the impetus that Bian Tarita provides the Aussie side as well. So strong through the hips, gets through contact really well. So she's been a great inclusion. Good to see her fit and firing. So yeah, be sure to read all about it on the Raw, but certainly watching on 9 and Stan. Okay, on the other side of this, BPA Brandon Paenga-Amosa. Hey, it's a very warm welcome to Brandon Paenga-Amosa. Welcome back, BPA, to Aussie rugby and to Australia.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back home. I'm really enjoying it.
Mate, you're looking good, really Beeks. You're looking fit.
Trying to, bro. Trying to keep up with you, brother. You know how it is.
You don't really need too much of an introduction, do you? Because clearly Wallabies under Michael Cheika, Wallabies under Dave Rennie. But, mate, before we kind of get into where you've been, this has been for a little while on the horizon, coming back to the Western Force. Is it great to be in Perth?
Yeah, mate. It's I think before I left to go to France, I knew it was always going to be a short-term kind of thing. Like, I knew it was I originally signed a 2+1. So I always knew that I was going to come back at some point. I really enjoyed my time over there. Me and my family, we loved it in France. But I always knew at the back of my mind I was going to end up back in Super Rugby and back in Australia. So it just so happened that I ended up here at the Force, and I'm really enjoying it so far. We're getting around the boys. So a lot of the boys started back today. So it's been really good getting around and getting amongst today.
Well, how long have you been back in Australia for? Because you spent a bit of time in Sydney. I got told you were packing down at some scrums with Belly and the rest.
It was good. It was good. I've been back in the country for about just under 4 weeks now. And yeah, it's been great, mate. It's just so much convenient, obviously having family. I was on the East Coast. I was in Sydney for a good 3 weeks, and just being around friends and family, catching up with all of them, having having babysitters, which has been so much easier. In France, we didn't have any family there, so that makes things easier. Packing down also with Belly and Dave as well, and getting amongst a couple of the boys there was amazing. Just trying to get back on the field, all of us.
Hey, Beeps, mate. Last time we played together, 2021, went Super AU final. Then we went and got destroyed by all the Kiwi teams. Straight overseas to Montpellier, and you guys went again. 2022, you won the top 14. How was that whole experience?
Mate, it was incredible, bro. Honestly, I didn't understand. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know much about French rugby when I went over, so I was kind of just enjoying every game as we went on. I was enjoying the journey. I was enjoying the ambiance, as they say. And it wasn't until like we got into the quarters where I was like, oh my gosh, like this is huge, man. Like we're filling out stadiums. Like in the semis, we played in Nice, and it was like 80,000 people, and it was wild, like loud. And it was incredible, bro. That whole season was just like a dream season, man. Like coming from winning with the Reds straight into winning the top 14, mate. It was one of the greatest years of my career, to be honest, to look back on, and really enjoyed the time there, and to be a part of it was such an honor. So yeah, bro, it was awesome.
Can tell us a little bit about those celebrations, because you're dancing, then to slide into the water. It was going viral at points in time.
Mate, I was on another level, bro. I was when the buzzer rang, man, I didn't know what to think. I was just like, gosh, here we are. What a year it's been for me personally. Moving to France and winning the biggest title in French history, when the top 14 is over 100 years old, and winning the Brennus, as they call it, was amazing. Was freaking crazy, bro. It was wild. I don't want to go too much into detail about what happened and the behind the scenes stuff, but the celebrations went on for a week. I know that a couple of the boys some of the boys went 7 days straight, mate. Some of the boys in our team went down to Barcelona 3 days after 3 days after we won the final. Boys were carrying on at the beach clubs in Montpellier. Some boys went down to, there was a big group that went down to Barcelona, because Barcelona is only about 3 hours from us. I couldn't, but I was fresh to fatherhood at that time. My daughter was 3-4 weeks old, so I was straight. 2 nights, hit it, and then done. 2 nights. I was telling the boys, I'll give you guys 2 nights, and then after that, I'm done, mate. I gotta be a dad, and it just so happened that I fell off a stage the second night. And what a time! The celebration.
How does that change your career and your perspective on rugby? Obviously, went away to for an opportunity overseas. How does now having, I believe, 2 kids, how does that kind of change everything for you?
Yeah, but I think just for me personally, being in Australian rugby, I was so small-minded. This was just me. I don't want to speak on behalf of other players or anybody that's in Australian rugby, but me personally, I was so small-minded, thinking that the way Australia plays, the way we play in Super Rugby is the only way. The way we do things, it's the only way to do it. And talking to ex-coaches that I've had and ex-players that have players that were ahead of the journey, they always did say, man, if you can get over to Europe, it's a great experience. If you can get over to Japan, it's a great experience. And I didn't really understand what they meant until I was actually over there, where I actually got to experience a different type of game of rugby, a more physical game that doesn't have too much structure to it, but just loose skills are just next level, and as I said, the physicality is just another level. Man, it was for me personally, going there, I had to really unlearn a lot of things to relearn how to do things another way. for example, scrummaging or even lineouts, you know what I mean, to name a few. And and then that's just on-field stuff. Like I had to unlearn a lot of things and relearn how to do things, but also add to my arsenal. Like I had to learn, for example, like throwing a line out in Super, I'd say, you know, the throw is a lot more direct and it's sharp, it's quick, as opposed to France, a lot more like a lob, you know what I mean? Because of bigger bodies, you know, players are not as quick as getting off the deck or across the deck or in the air. So then learning how to throw like 2 different types of line-out throws or scrummaging 2 different types or 3 different types of ways, it really added to my arsenal. Like personally, that came to on-field stuff, but then also learning how to be a father as well to 2 daughters that are both French born. You know, I don't want to go into the whole giving birth for my wife in France. 6 months of us being there, I had no idea what was going on, bro. No idea. And I'm just there, my wife's screaming in English, and because my wife's Mexican American, she's screaming in Spanish as well, and I'm there just like, fudge. I have no idea. Let me put my hand in there and grab it out and grab the baby out. But no, there was a lot of it was a lot of growing for me, you know, like expanding my horizons, opening my mind with rugby, but then also learning how to be a dad and switching on and off. That's another big thing that helped off field. That was, you know, being able to be in the moment at training, but then also, you know, where I lived from where I trained was a good 15-minute drive. In that 15 minutes, being able to switch off, you know, and learn, okay, that was Brandon, like rugby player mode, but now I'm switching into husband/dad mode. You know, and a lot of players, you know, struggle to do that. Like I struggled with that, I'd say the first year on, maybe first 6 months of being a father. But it takes time, and I learned that while being overseas. So yeah, I hope that.
Hey, Brandon, mate, there is so much to digest out of that. We've gone a few different areas, but we'll get to the Wallabies in a moment and your aspirations about that. But it's so cutthroat as well in French rugby, right? Like Richard Cockrell, not that long ago, was shown the door, the Georgians coach now, but he started off really well. I think he was telling me just a couple of weeks ago that 7 wins and 1 loss, and then he was out the door.
7 wins and 1 loss. I think it was the other way around.
Right.
7 losses and 1 win. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I actually didn't play under Richard. I was injured the first 8 weeks of the season, and the 1 week I was set to return to play, he actually got sacked that Tuesday, or was it Monday or something. So I actually never had the privilege to play under him, which was kind of devastating because I was quite looking forward to playing with him. But I messaged him when you know, we all know that the French system is quite brutal, you know, in terms of if you underperform or if you're not on point or if you're not on form, you know, you've got a couple of chances, then you're out of there, you know. And I get it. And it just, you know, everyone's at some point, that's gonna be you, you know, everyone's gonna be sacked at some point, whether it's now or whether it's later on. So you're just kind of waiting in line until it's your number. And it just so happened to be Cockers at the time. And I actually didn't. I was most of the time he was there. I was in the rehab team, but I really did get along with him. I liked him. I thought he was all good. Just unfortunate, what happened. But yeah, coming back to the Frenchies, they're pretty. They're very brutal. You have to play good. First, second, and third game is everything, mate. If you don't perform, it's just bang out of there.
Well, I think we saw that with Quade Cooper back in 2016 after that World Cup.
There's a long list of foreigners that have gone there and been axed very quickly, you know. Mate, when I was at Montpellier, I went through quite a few coaches while I was there in my short span. So, but I think that's just how. I don't want to speak on behalf of all French rugby, but that's my experience of being at Montpellier and being part of the top 14 and seeing a lot of it. You know, if coaches are underperforming, bang, gone. If players are underperforming, bang, gone. So there's a lot of pressure, but you just have to just always be on.
Obviously, it sounds a little bit like international rugby. A little bit of a segue there, but this move back to the West obviously sets you up for potential selections into the Wallabies. Was that obviously a part of the reason you came back?
Yeah, mate. Like as I said earlier, Ryan, I always knew that I was going to come back. I didn't know where. Like I didn't know whether it was going to be the East Coast or the West. But I always did want to come back. And I mean, for every Australian, that plays rugby, your goal is to want to be a Wallaby. So of course, that's a big part of why I wanted to come back home and just give it a crack. If I get the opportunity to, I will take it and run with it. If I don't, then it's just not meant to be. But that's definitely in my it's definitely a goal for me to get back in the squad or to compete with the other hookers and essentially make the Wallaby jersey better, whether it's pushing other players to be better, whether it's me being pushed to be better, and if I get to wear the jersey or whether I don't, just trying to build rugby in Australia essentially, bro. So yeah.
Well, mate, you're going to have a fair bit of competition at the Force now with Nick Dolly coming back from Leicester and Tom Horton's still there as well. So,
good players.
Where do you think your game's improved since you left? You're talking a little bit about the differing line-out skills, but scrummaging has always been a strength of yours. It's probably something that the Wallabies will be after as well. Where do you think you can make an impact and have improved over the last 24 months?
I think too much. Before I left, I tried to mimic how other players played. Like I only thought there was really only one way to play hooker. And before I left the country, before I went to France, the hooker position was a very loose position. Like you'd see players, hookers on the edge. Cody Taylor's a great example. Dane Cole's another great example, on the edge, able to make the run down the sideline and gas wingers, throw the 20-meter cutout pass. And I was, watching them and really thinking, bro, these guys are world-class players. I need to be like that. I think going to France really showed me what I'm good at. And I'm just going to be honest, I'm not that guy that's going to burn players on the edge. I'm not that guy that's going to run out wide and step the fullback and chuck a 30-meter pass. That's just not me, man. My game's kind of, I'm a bigger body. I'd say I've got probably 5 to 8 kilos on those boys. So I've understood going to France that my position is to be tight, to play the tight game, try and get over the ball as much as I can. And get us and try and turn the ball over or just be a pest in the ruck, take tough carries. Even if I do get banged left, right, and center, that's my job because I am a bigger body or be that impact when it comes to connecting with the ball carrier to get to bend the line a bit. I think another one is just also my set piece, man. Like scrummaging was a big one over there. I think everyone knows that tight heads, especially coming across, taking that angle. For example, Nella's very good at it, and everybody knows, or every hooker knows, okay, this week I'm going against Nella. I've got to drop my left shoulder. I've got to protect my loose head. The reality of French rugby is everyone's like Nella. That's the truth. I wouldn't say everyone's like him in terms of power, and Nella's just a freak, but everyone scrums like that. Everyone takes that angle, comes hard at your neck, tries to break the seam of the between the loose head and the hooker. And I feel like that's an area that I had to improve on, and that I'm still improving on. But I feel like I've gotten a lot better at as a scrummager, and as front rows call it, the dark arts of scrummaging, and learning how to get the ref on your side, and also saying the right things to the ref to try and get him on your side. Because I don't want to give it away, but every front row knows it's a very dark art scrummaging, and and when you know.
It's a bit of a masterclass this in front row scrummaging at the moment. And just before we let you go, can you give us an update on Dave Parecki and Angus Bell? Both of them obviously had pretty devastating injuries, and we haven't seen much of Dave. How are they going?
Yeah, they're going well, mate. Last time I saw Dave, he was running, and he said he felt good running, which was amazing. So he's I don't know exactly how far off he is, but I'm pretty sure he might be quite close to returning. And Belly I think Belly will be good to go within the next couple of months. He's obviously got a couple of boxes, like Dave. They've got a couple more boxes to tick before they can take the field. But I think those boys are very close, which would be good for the Wallabies to get them back in there and to get more competition in the squad and in the camp to be better, to take that jersey further than where it already is. I think the boys are doing a great job, and I think they can continue to keep doing a great job. That's
well, I'm sure. Yeah. Wow. Look, depth in numbers is crucial. So to have depth is going to be vital throughout the Rugby Championship and the spring tour. So good to have you, BPA, on the pod.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome back to Australia. I'm sure Ryan is probably getting his next contract sorted in France or Japan now off the back of hearing about that.
But if you want to get to Montpellier, I know a guy. I know a guy or two. Yeah. That's awesome.
It sounds like good fun out there.
Oh mate, it's mate, you know, this where I was, I had the beach 20-minute drive from me. I had a beautiful town, small township. I knew my local guy at the boulangerie or the bakery. I knew my local chemist. Like me and my wife had a really good setup there in the south of France, mate. As I said, we were traveling every second weekend, and whenever I'd have time off. It was an awesome lifestyle, mate. I highly recommend everybody at some point to get over to Europe to play, or even Japan, just to get out and experience a different brand of footy. And just to learn, mate. It's good. You'll love it, bro.
All right. Well, we won't be telling Sam Cordingley, the Reds general manager, that just yet.
But, we still need depth here, mate. We need as many boys as we can. We're building for a World Cup here, brother. So stay here. No, not until. Wait till after.
After. All right, BPA. Thanks very much.
Yes, lads. Really appreciate it.
Hey, so good to have BPA. He's a man with a lot of personality, and I think he'll be in the mix throughout the Rugby Championship. Whether or not he's in the squad right at the start, having come back from a little niggle, remains to be seen. But so much personality. Good to have him on. You've got some pretty good memories of him too.
Yeah, mate, he's just great around the group. I think they'll really enjoy him out the West. I remember that 2021 Super AU final. Part of my costume was to have a cigar with it, and I was walking around with it for a couple of hours, and he came up and pointed at me and are you gonna smoke that one? And I said, "No, mate." And he lit it up like a pro and was walking around puffing on it for the rest of the arvo. But yeah, he's a pretty big character, and I think they'll love him in Perth.
Well, he can play as well, and look, I know that there'll be some fierce competition at that number 2 jersey. Think about what Matt Fessler and Josh Nash have done in recent weeks, Billy Pollard, but you add in the equation Dave Parecki in the coming months. I think he's targeting maybe the back end of the TRC, but certainly the spring tour. And then you think of Brandon Paenga-Amosa and you go, well, suddenly there's a fair bit more depth at the number 2 jersey. Good luck with your own aspirations over the coming weeks. Awesome to have you fill in for Matt Toomua, and he might be hard pressed to get his role back, because that was awesome.
No, I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Matt. And Matty can try and come and take it from me.
Well, good luck to him. But until next time, we might be back to dissect the Wallabies squad when it's announced later this week, probably between 34 and 36 man squad for the TRC. The first test match, of course, August 10 in Brisbane, Ryan Smith's backyard at Suncorp Stadium. It's expected to be sold out, so definitely get your tickets quickly. Until then, I'm Christy Doran. Great to have another episode of the Raw Rugby Podcast.